going on and kind of memorize it just for a second. If we'll take a look at a monthly chart in Tesla, we'll see that the stock became public and just floated around for a few years. And then all of a sudden it just took off and had this big move higher where it almost quadrupled or even 5 times bigger. It went up about 500% almost. And then it just kind of digested gains for many years. So many of us are already familiar with this. We know what's going on with Tesla. We probably already have the stock in our head as far as what it looks like. But I'd like you to note a few things. The first thing is that there was a big uptrend, and then there was a big down move to the 200-day moving average, and then it reached new highs before eventually just kind of settling for many years over here. And it was just kind of range bound, and its most recent run is the time when we are really feeling that this may have a chance to go much higher. So if you just kind of look at the stock for a minute and get all these few details, the run higher, the downturn to the 200, the eventual second push higher where the last buyers came in. These are the bargain hunters, by the way. And then the bargain hunters ended up just becoming flat for many years and probably exiting their position. And then the stock is just kind of sitting here in an inflection point now where we feel that all the different circumstances are probably going to be pushing Tesla much higher. We've already gone over those in a different video. Now, in the stock market, it pays greatly to know your history, specifically your winning stocks from history. These are your Amazons, your Googles, all these other stocks. So we're going to be taking a look at Microsoft today. Now, we're going to be taking a look at Microsoft way back when. I'll tell you exactly when. You'll see it up here on the screen, exactly what date I'm going to be going back to. We're going to be taking a look back in 1989. Who knows if many of us were even around. Now, if we take a look at Microsoft, we're going to see a lot of similarities between Tesla now. Let's start off by looking at a monthly chart, an overall view that we'll see Microsoft became public a few months after it just took off, just like Tesla did. And we'll see in a weekly chart that after the big move higher, the stock had then came correcting down pretty close to the 200-day moving average. And then these bargain hunters came in and started pushing the stock higher to new highs where it eventually crumbled and just was range bound from, seems, June 1987 all the way to September 1989. Now, this obviously looks very similar to Tesla. And these are a lot of important notes to keep in mind when comparing Microsoft back in 1989 and to Tesla today. If you'll see other historic stock market winners, if you go through, I mean, we don't have the time to do it right now, but maybe later on, if you look at Netflix and Apple and many others, you'll see similarities between other stocks even dating back to the 1980s, 1970s, the 60s, even further back. History tends to repeat itself in the stock market because this is all human behavior and human psychology doing the buying and selling. It just, as Jesse Livermore said, speculation is as old as the hill. So you find historic similarities between Microsoft back in 1989 and obviously, you know what happened to Microsoft hereafter. It blew up from there. Now, it's not to say that just because they look alike now that it's going to be alike. I'm not saying that, okay, they look similar, so Tesla's going to go, 100 times higher. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that it's important to note that a new issue, a new company at the time, Microsoft, which was new to market, had this IPO recently, was bought up really quickly and then was range bound for many years. And there was probably a lot of arguments between the longs and short during this whole time, just like Amazon was at the same time, and just like Tesla is today, that eventually there was a move and the stock just had something going for it that it eventually pushed it higher. So these kind of similarities just they can't really be ignored in Tesla today. Now, I myself am not an investor. I've never really held a company for years at a time. But Tesla is one of those stocks where, if we take a look at it right now, let's go to today's date. Now, Tesla is one of those stocks that so long as your position is not acting wrong and your stop is not hit, your danger zone is not hit, the stock doesn't give you any red flags, there's really no reason to sell the stock. It's one of those ones that really should be held indefinitely until something just goes terribly wrong with it, which I don't really see it happening. I mean, even today, the gains it digested was very well. It's still holding up above the 10-day exponential moving average. There was light volume today. There's a lot of positives in it today where there's really nothing to touch. So it's just something to keep in mind to put in the 1989 chart of Microsoft and compare all the little tea leaves of supply and demand in Microsoft, how it made it run higher, how it digested those gains for a few years, and then eventually the story, and I'm sure it was just probably the investment behind Bill Gates at the time, it just happened to blow the stock up thereafter. And it's very similar to the story of Amazon. I remember even Amazon, there was a big dispute whether, the company was a flop and how can it be compared to Walmart, and how could it be a bigger company than Walmart, and it wasn't even selling even 10% of Walmart's retail sales. But the people were really missing the bigger story, and that was that it was not just a retailer. So I remember that time even Amazon was losing money for many years, and people just, they didn't care. The stock kept moving higher. So Tesla is one of those stocks that should not be compared to General Motors or Ford, any of these things. There's something different going on here. And obviously, the smart money gets it because there's been a lot of demand in the stock. So it's just kind of an important note to keep in mind the 1989 stock chart of Microsoft and really see how this plays out with Tesla. But I'm definitely holding a big position here. I've built up my position over quite a few months over here, and so far so good. So let's see where it plays out. All right, that's Tesla, and